Let's jump right in, shall we? Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're cracking open the files on what is easily one of the most captivating and definitely the most debated subjects in all of human history. I mean, for thousands of years, we've looked up at the stars and wondered, are we alone? But over the last 80 years or so, that question is completely transformed. It's gone from a quiet philosophical curiosity into this massive, tangled web of military secrets, global hysteria, and honestly, some pretty mind-bending encounters. So today, we are going to untangle that web together. We're taking a completely objective deep dive into the 80-year history of unidentified aerial phenomena. We're going to look at exactly what the data actually says, what governments have historically hidden from us, and where the real, rigorous scientific search for answers is headed next. Okay, let's dive into this. Picture this. It's 1965. Astronaut Frank Borman is right in the middle of the Gemini 7 spaceflight when he suddenly radios Houston with a transmission that honestly still sends shivers down my spine. He said, "Bogey at 10 o'clock high." Now, in military speak, a bogey is an unidentified, potentially hostile aircraft. On Earth, during a war, sure, that totally makes sense. But Borman was in the literal vacuum of space. Houston actually asked him if he was maybe just seeing his own rocket booster. But Borman confirmed, nope, he was seeing his booster and this completely unidentified second object. Crazy, right? And hey, this isn't just some relic of the 1960s. Jump all the way forward to 2023. 6 highly trained federal agents at an undisclosed U.S. location reported seeing this massive, glowing orange orb just hovering in the sky. And over a couple of days, they swore under oath that they watched this giant orange mothership literally launch smaller glowing red orbs that just zipped around before vanishing entirely. And you know, it's not just weird lights in the sky. We have modern, highly documented encounters where these objects seem to completely ignore the basic laws of physics. I mean, they completely defy inertia. Take 2023, for example. U.S. military forces operating in Greece captured an infrared video of an object out over the ocean executing impossible 90-degree turns while going 80 miles per hour. Let that sink in. No wings, no visible propulsion, no heat signature whatsoever. It's baffling. And we saw the exact same kind of thing during that famous 2004 USS Nimitz encounter in the Pacific. That's the one where top-tier fighter pilots tracked a smooth white object, they nicknamed it the Tic Tac, dropping from these extraordinary altitudes right down to sea level in seconds. It just easily outmaneuvered our absolute most advanced fighter jets. So to really understand how we got to this point, we have to rewind the clock back to 1947. That is the year everything changed. In June of 1947, a super experienced pilot named Kenneth Arnold spotted 9 strange objects flying at just impossible speeds over Mount Rainier. When reporters asked him what they looked like, Arnold said they moved like a saucer skipping across water. Notice he was describing their motion, but the media completely misunderstood him, and boom, the headline "Flying Saucers" was printed. That idea spread like wildfire and instantly ignited a global hysteria. And then, just weeks later, in July, a rancher in Roswell, New Mexico, found some strange metallic debris in his field. Get this, the local military actually issued a press release claiming they had recovered a flying disc before they frantically retracted the whole thing the very next day, saying, "Oh, actually, it's just a weather balloon." Just like that, the modern UFO craze was officially born. Now, what's really interesting about this is that these sightings didn't just stop at the edge of Earth's atmosphere. Even our absolute most highly trained, carefully vetted observers, the Apollo astronauts, witnessed things they just couldn't explain. Buzz Aldrin reported unexplained flashing lights right inside the cabin during Apollo 11. The Apollo 12 crew documented these bizarre flashes coming from the lunar landing site. And then during Apollo 17, back in 1972, there's a photograph that captured 3 distinct physical dots in a really tight triangular formation right above the moon. And here is the kicker.
Fast forward 54 years, and the U.S. government's own preliminary analysis recently admitted that those dots could very well be actual, unexplained physical objects floating in space.
Because of all this mounting public panic, especially wrapped up in the intense paranoia of the Cold War, the U.S. government had to do something. So they launched a series of massive intelligence gathering efforts. It kicked off with Project Sign in 1948, mostly to assess if these objects were a national security threat. Then came Project Grudge, which was highly skeptical and really just focused on shutting down the public hysteria with conventional answers. The most famous one, though, for sure, was Project Blue Book. That ran for 17 years and investigated over 12,000 cases. And bringing us to today, we have AARO, established in 2022. They recently wrapped up a big report and concluded they found absolutely zero evidence of the government hiding any extraterrestrial craft or reverse engineering alien tech.
Which brings us to a really fascinating turning point in this whole mystery. Think back to Roswell. The myth, of course, claims aliens crash-landed and bodies were recovered. But decades later, the military finally declassified a program called Project Mogul. See, during the Cold War, the U.S. was flying highly advanced, top-secret spy balloons to monitor Soviet nuclear tests. And one of those spy balloons is what actually crashed in Roswell. The government quickly realized that letting the public believe it was a flying saucer was, quite frankly, the perfect cover story. By letting that alien hysteria completely flourish, they successfully hid a major international espionage operation. They even kept using that same alien cover story for years to test stealth planes and advanced spy aircraft in total secrecy. Pretty brilliant, right?
And honestly, that history makes perfect sense when you look at the modern hotspots for these sightings. If you look at the data over the last few years, the highest concentrations of mysterious aerial objects haven't been in random rural cornfields. Nope. They've been in Iraq, Syria near the Strait of Hormuz, the Indo-Pacific near Japan, and Greece. So what do all these areas have in common? Well, they perfectly overlap with zones where the U.S. military has deployed its absolutely most advanced surveillance systems. Think about it. If you have the best sensors in the world actively scanning the skies in major conflict zones, you were absolutely going to pick up adversary drone activity, surveillance equipment, and high-altitude spy balloons. Like, remember that Chinese high-altitude balloon that was shot down over the U.S. in 2023? Exactly that kind of thing.
Now, because human perception is so easily tricked by things like optical illusions, weird weather, or just foreign drones, the military has officially pivoted. They've actually retired the term UFO entirely. Now they use UAP, Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena. And this is a really critical shift. The old term just carried way too much cultural baggage, right? You say UFO and people instantly think of little green men. UAP completely removes that stigma. It strips away the assumption of extraterrestrials and shifts the focus entirely away from flawed human eyesight toward rigorous, hard data. We're talking data collected by highly calibrated radar, infrared sensors, and satellite imaging. So the crucial point is this. Yes, the vast majority of these sightings can be perfectly explained. They're weather balloons, temperature inversions, optical illusions, or just highly classified military tech. But consider this specific number, 701. Out of the more than 12,000 cases investigated back during Project Blue Book, exactly 701 cases completely defied any conventional explanation. Even with all the data available to them, military analysts just couldn't figure out what they were. And it's these 701 unresolved cases that really keep the genuine mystery alive today. But as we look at those genuinely unexplained cases, we really have to ground ourselves in a fundamental rule of science. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. It's a classic saying for a reason. If an object up in our sky is truly a visitor from another star system, well, a blurry 3-second black and white infrared video from a fighter jet simply isn't going to cut it.
Science demands measurable, physical, undeniable evidence. And fortunately for us, scientists have developed much, much better, vastly more accurate ways of searching the universe than just crossing our fingers and hoping a spacecraft happens to fly past a military camera.
Which transitions us beautifully right into the cosmos, and to something called the Drake equation. Astronomer Frank Drake actually created this mathematical framework not to spit out one exact number, but to help us estimate the odds of finding communicative extraterrestrial civilizations in our galaxy. It factors in things like the rate of star formation and the likelihood of planets actually developing life. And what's totally amazing is that modern astronomy has recently proven that one massive part of this equation is absolutely true. Planets are literally everywhere. We've discovered thousands of exoplanets in just the last few years, and a lot of them sit right in the habitable zone where liquid water could exist. So, mathematically speaking, the math strongly suggests that the universe is incredibly hospitable to life.
But here's the catch. That incredibly high mathematical probability crashes headfirst into what's known as the Fermi paradox. Our Milky Way galaxy alone contains hundreds of billions of stars, and it's been around for billions of years. By all logical scientific estimates, if intelligent life is common, well, those civilizations should have had plenty of time to spread out, build giant megastructures, and broadcast radio signals across the stars. Yet, as we stare out into the void to space, we are met with total, deafening silence. We have never found a single, definitive, confirmed technological signature. Nothing.
And that contradiction brings us to what I think is the most existential, chilling, and endlessly fascinating question in all of science. Where is everybody?
And this brilliantly illustrates how humanity's approach to this whole topic has really matured. The real search for life has moved so far beyond analyzing blurry photos of flying saucers. Today, we have massive space telescopes literally scanning distant galaxies. We're actively searching exoplanets for biosignatures, basically chemical cocktails of things like oxygen, methane, and water vapor that really shouldn't exist together unless there's biology there to maintain them. We're using incredibly powerful artificial intelligence to sift through just massive data sets of radio waves, hunting for any artificial anomalies. And we are sending probes right here in our own solar system to search the ancient riverbeds of Mars and to dive into the vast, hidden subsurface oceans of Jupiter's moon Europa and Saturn's moon Enceladus.
So what does this all mean? What should you actually take away from all of this today? Well, for 80 years, the UFO craze was really fueled by this intoxicating mix of Cold War paranoia, secret military testing, and the simple limits of human perception. Governments definitely lied to us for sure, but mostly to protect their own terrestrial spy programs, not to hide alien bodies. But as the smoke finally clears on those earthly mysteries, we're left staring up at a vast, largely unexplored cosmos. Which leaves us with one final, deeply profound question for you to chew on. Are we truly alone in the universe, or are we just finally learning how to look in the right places? Keep asking questions, keep seeking out the hard data, and as always, keep your eyes on the stars. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.